The gentleman yields. The gentleman, Mr. Sherman, is recognized for 5 minutes.
There's substantial discussion earlier when I was here about the withdrawal from Afghanistan. It certainly wasn't pretty. But there's almost no time in history when there can be a retreat that is nice to look at. It wasn't nice to look at in Saigon. It wasn't nice to look like in Afghanistan. One of the intelligence failures was the belief that because the Afghan army clearly had the capacity to fight against the Taliban for a 3-month period, that they would. The fact is that once we were withdrawing, and everybody expected the Taliban to take over, who is going to give their life just to provide a 3-month window between our withdrawal and the Taliban's victory? Our intel community confused capacity with willingness, but I do not think that we're going to go back as we analyze this and say, oh, if we had just done it better, it would have been beautiful. I'll ask our witness. We have very few tools available to get Afghanistan to do what we want. We can bomb them. Nobody's suggesting that. We can prevent them from getting other economic relationships with private sector companies and with the IMF, but that undercuts our effort to help the Afghan people, and we can provide direct aid. The aid we're providing is not only a problem for those who focus on Afghanistan. I've been advocating for 27 years now that we spend more money providing nutrition and health and education to the poorest people in the world, and I can't think of a better way to undermine that effort than to let the American people know the truth, which is that the money we send to Afghanistan is in part purloined not just by the ordinary corruption, but also by those who want to fund terrorism. Do we have any tools other than to tell the Afghan government that we will not provide the aid? We can threaten to, we can cut it off, we can threaten to cut it off. Any other tools we have available?
Well, there's certain auditing tools, there's certain tools.
Well, there are auditing tools for us to discover how much of our money is stolen.
Yeah.
But do we have, and it'd be nice to get a report, but do we have any tools to get them to stop stealing it?
No.
Okay.
No,
so
we don't have leverage. We had very little. We had leverage before. We have no leverage now, really.
Now, there's a limited amount of money that Congress will provide to providing nutrition, health care, and education to the poorest people in the world. Every dollar we spend in Afghanistan is a dollar we don't spend in Eastern Congo or Northern Ethiopia. Do we have... if we were to not spend money in Afghanistan, but to spend more in those other places, would we feed as many hungry people? Would we educate as many people who are desperate for education?
I can't answer that. We didn't look into that. Again, that's a policy decision. I think I told you, and maybe now it's hit home, that there are no really good choices in Afghanistan.
Yeah. I mean, there's a tendency when you have limited resources to just spread them out and say, well, we did something here, and we did something there, and we did something here. So don't tell us that politically difficult thing, oh, you did nothing for that. But the fact is, if we did twice as much in Eastern Congo and half as much in Afghanistan, we might be helping just as many people. The advocates for foreign aid tend not to want to have that discussion because they believe we should be doing both and all of the above, but Congress is limited. So the one way that we could have some leverage is if Afghanistan realized that if we can't make sure the money is spent well in Afghanistan, there are other places we can spend it. How much do they care whether this aid gets to their people? Is even the threat to cut off aid leverage, or are they in favor of ignorance and starvation?
There have been statements made by senior Taliban officials. And again, one thing you have to realize is the Taliban is not monolithic.
I do.
And as you well realize. But there have been some statements made by some of the, I would say, the Kandahar Taliban, who basically said, we don't really care. Now, there may be more practical people in other areas of the country, and maybe that's what we're trying to reach out to. But that's a diplomatic issue that we don't
We
really
need
look
to
at.
explore whether
Yeah.
this money can do more in Africa, and I yield back.